Hello out there, welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Got another batch of the fun stuff lined up for us to talk about tonight. Sitting in the co-pilot seat as usual, none other than my brother from another mother, the great wizard of historical knowledge himself, Mr. Eric D. Smith. How are you, Mr. Smith?
Love with people everywhere, man.
Just feel 60s type flower power love,
yeah,
right?
I exude it.
I am detecting some sarcasm. Am I misreading that?
I think I'm good. I love everybody.
Yeah, just feel the love, right? Feel the love.
Feeling it, yeah, definitely.
Sitting back behind the engineering console, however, recovering from the plague is our Bond villain, Mr. Devlin. Let's get him to say something. Go ahead, Devlin, say something.
Something.
Yeah, okay. So he won't be talking much tonight, folks.
Mr. Raspy.
Our Bond villain has a cold. Thank God, but he's getting better. But now I think I have it. I woke up this morning and I felt like a nail looking for a hammer, brother. I was like, oh God. So I haven't been feeling too hot. So luckily I've been doing work. I'm working on a project where it gets me a lot of at a console kind of time, and we're punching stuff out. So it's been good that way. I've been able to kind of recover, as it were,
uncover and work at the same time.
I'm blessed, right? Hashtag blessed. So what's new? Anything new going on, Mr. Smith?
No, I don't think so.
All right, Mr. Devlin, bring up the show includes. Would you be? Go ahead.
I turned 50.
That's right. This was a big weekend for you, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're half a century old now, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I mean, how many people make it here?
Intact.
Fucking made it. Spike the football, have a drink, right?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
made it to 50. All right, so I wanted to give a special shout out to Kenny Schaefer and over at Thought Dumb Podcast. I think I told you guys, that they're back and putting out shows.
Oh, yeah.
And man, it is the fucking.
Hi, Kenny.
These guys are trippy as shit, man. It's so much fun listening to these two talk because. They're the kind of friends that they try to one-up insult each other, but they try to do it throughout the course of a conversation. And just hearing them, when they succeed, it's amazing. But what's even better is when it kind of falls flat, and then the other one pounces on them. I was like, that ain't shit, you know. But so I've been listening. I actually they just had another show came out. 18 Pounds of Turkey was the last one, which was funny. You have to hear the context of that, but. I saved them for windshield time, man, because they just crack me up. So if you get a chance,
more windshield time.
Yeah. Oh, so you can listen to more podcasts,
or any
podcast. Yeah. Well, if you get the chance, folks, check them out. Thought Dumb Podcast, great stuff, and it's my good buddy Kenny Schaefer over there doing it up right. So check them out. So I wanted to also cover, if you've noticed, there's been some sporadicness to the scheduling. That is because I am ass deep in the season of startup, which is for us traveling automation engineers is sort of what we do. So that's going to be, the shows are going to be those kinds of things that we sort of fill in as we can, as we did last season. If you check and listen, you can kind of see the dates get a little funky, but we still will be producing shows. So don't freak out, everyone. Don't need to be messaging us. Everything's okay. We'll get them out as fast as we can.
We're healthy.
We're healthy and fine, right? So I think that's that on that, man. I got a big old bundle of articles. The question I have for everybody today, maybe Devlin, but especially you. I don't know if Devlin can answer this. Here's the question, and I heard this, and I really thought this was right up our alley. Is a hot dog really just a sandwich? Yes or no, and why? Like, okay, so when you say give me a hot dog, it's sort of its own thing, right? But technically, it's just a sandwich, right? So if I put peanut butter on a piece of bread and folded it in half, do I have a hot peanut butter?
No, it's a sandwich, I think. I think it's a sandwich.
You think it's a sandwich?
Yeah.
Devlin, you want to pipe in on this? Or oh, he does. This ought to be good. Go ahead.
It's a sandwich.
You think it's a sandwich?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a sandwich.
But nobody ever orders a hot dog sandwich. Hey, give me a hot dog sandwich. But you order a ham sandwich, right?
Yeah.
A steak and cheese sandwich.
It's between two buns.
It is.
Bread.
Yeah.
So
it's a sandwich, yeah.
It's
that's
a sandwich.
Why, yeah.
I think I agree with you guys. I think we've settled it here on No Shitcast. The Orb of Knowledge can now officially.
Well, let me ask you guys this: crunchy peanut butter or smooth peanut butter?
Extra crunchy. Fuck that crunchy shit. It's got to be extra crunchy.
Extra crunchy.
I like it to basically be chunks of peanuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
what about you, Devlin?
I'm with Dad. I'm with Dad.
Extra crunchy.
Okay. I'm all down with the smooth.
You like the smooth, huh?
Yeah.
That fits you, dude. I see that. I do. You know, sitting in the jazz house, man, with a spoon and a smooth jar of Skippy back in the corner.
No problems, no issues. Just
doing your rhythmic poetry.
Yeah, it could be in a tube. Brother. It would be fine.
It could be a thing, man. You don't know. You should start that. That's totally you.
Neo Beatnik.
Neo Beatnik, there it is. Yeah. We'll do like synthesizer beats. And stuff in the back.
I don't have any poetry. I wrote like one poem once.
That's it.
Pretty much, yeah.
You're not a lyrics guy. You're a music guy, though.
Yeah, I don't do the lyrics. I'm not good at that.
Which is really kind of funny because you're a word guy for sure.
But that's the problem.
You love language and shit, right?
Yeah, but I can't be poetic with it. Apparently,
that's strange.
I use it more like a tool or a hammer than I do something interesting. I mean, the one poem that I did write, it was reviewed by the editor of Poet magazine, and it was he made one suggestion and I changed it, and it was like one of those things. It was like a knowledge thing. Like I was asking for something to happen that wouldn't be able to happen in real life, so I changed it to something that would, and it worked just fine. So I really appreciated that, and. But yeah, it was kind of cool. I mean, he just happened to be a friend of mine.
I was like, it's funny because you say, well, I don't write poetry. Well, I did write one poem.
Just one.
And then it was reviewed by the editor of a poem magazine.
Just
but,
you know,
other than that, I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It was a struggle. It was really a struggle. But like I did that at a time when I was also taking a playwriting and analysis class, which out of every class I had in college, that was probably the hardest class that I think you'd be able to pull off like the Shakespearean stuff, though. It would probably be tedious for you at first, but you know how Shakespeare's written, and it's sort of poetic in the way it uses the language. However, it doesn't necessarily rhyme. I don't know about all that. I don't know, man. Well, you seen that thing I put on Facebook, right? That thing that was like the philosophical /
what was it
about being good and doing good.
Right.
The forms of good, like the metaphysical forms of good and all that.
Yes.
Like that was kind of like poetry for me. That's like my poetry kind of in a way, but it's just, most people were just like.
We'll have to get Mr. Devlin to get that and put that up on the screen now. And then now it's gone. Isn't that cool? It's like magic. I can have him make shit appear. Watch, I'll do it again. Make it appear. Poof.
Oh, yeah. Give him time to read it.
Okay. And then now it's gone. So everybody at home can see what we're talking about.
Okay.
Right? We're just something you're going to be at. Yeah, you might want to take a note over there, buddy. And look, he's bumping the camera. It's great that we have these other camera angles now so that shit, boom, 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 and the camera doesn't show up. So might want to mark that time down. But yeah, we'll have something for you to add. You can tell he's not feeling well. He's like, what the hell's going on,
guy.
Man?
We're still working him hard, but poor guy.
Now get back to work.
Take those damn notes.
What the hell? Sick. Like he's sick, whatever. I think there's child labor laws. Look, he's telling me I'm number one.
Yeah. Special number one.
I'm always the middle one, though. That's the thing. I don't know. All right, Devlin, can you bring up the first article, please? I'm going to ask him to do something for me. This one comes from Ars Technica. Australia wants to use face recognition for porn age verification. So so basically what Australia wants to do is end the porn industry in Australia, online porn industry in Australia.
So what are they looking for, like your masturbation face?
Well, okay.
We
Well,
can match up that.
Okay, so you see how this just opens up a plethora of questions,
Yeah, it
right?
does for me.
And that's one.
Yeah,
That's
another one
for
is
sure.
that guy looks really pale to be an Australian.
And just from this angle, it makes you wonder what he's doing down there.
Yeah, it's all very white.
So for those that are just listening, we have a picture of some very pasty part on the left white dude in some sort of O face. But go check it out. It's at Ars Technica. All right, Dylan, can you scroll us down, buddy? Oh, he's at his laptop, too.
And he looks perplexed.
He does.
Like he doesn't want to show his face.
Like, what is happening here?
What? My face?
Lawmakers in Australia, like their counterparts in the UK, are looking for an effective way to limit kids' access to online pornography. Australia's Department of Home Affairs has a possible solution: face recognition technology. Now, I'd like to put my 2 cents in here, if you don't mind, on that first article.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the reason why they need verification is because if they don't have verification, they also don't have taxation. So the first step is to figure out who you are
And how much you're using.
and then the second step is to find a way to put a sin tax on online pornography. But that's just me. I could be totally making this up, but to name any other sinful thing that humans like to do that the government hasn't already found out a way to tax, especially if you have to buy it. Cigarettes, now it's marijuana, pretty much, half the states or whatever.
Yeah.
And then even the medical stuff, they're like, okay, we'll let you have medical, but they tax the fuck out of that, right?
Yeah.
So everything, alcohol, it all gets taxed. So my thought here is, because this is considered a vice, that this is something that they want to be able to verify who you are. So subsequently, they can say, well, now you have to have your credit card, and then you'll have to start paying to make the age verification, because that's what you have to do. You have to have a credit card on sites that require you to be over the age 18, right?
Yeah.
If you have a credit card, then they figure you're old enough. Okay, so they'll have your credit card because that's how they attach it to your age verification. That's just me.
That would make this the golden days of porn.
It really would, right? The Wild West, as it were, right?
Remember when it was free?
And then there'll be black market.
Anonymous?
There'll be black market pornography again.
Yeah, right.
Whatever the hell that is.
Jeez.
Quote, Home Affairs is developing a face verification service which matches a person's photo against images used on one of their evidence of identity documents to help verify their identity. So the face they're using is your driver's license photo, and then you have to verify against that. But if you have a mustache, if you have facial hair, when you get your driver's license photo,
then you shave it off.
Don't shave, or you can't watch porn anymore.
Yeah. Let me back in.
Oh, the humanity.
It's me.
It says this could assist in age verification, for example, by preventing a minor from using their parents' driver's license to circumvent age verification controls. Because that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. This is about the children. We've got to save the children. Australia's government face matching system has been years in the making. In 2016, the government announced that, in the words of CNET, quote, the first phase of its new biometric face verification service, FVS, is up and running, giving a number of government departments and the Australian Federal Police the ability to share and match digital photos of faces.
Yeah, man, that's what I want out of my porn, for the cops to be able to recognize my face. And
I was just about to say, why would you want people to know you watch porn?
Well, this also makes that connection between you and your online sexual proclivities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so once the government can marry that shit together, then you become highly manipulatable too, don't you?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, if what Edward Snowden was saying is true, this would be a boon for them, because they use that kind of stuff to lean on people. They use like their text messages if they're having affairs, and different things to kind of lean on people. So anyway,
that's a dark dystopian governmental future that you're talking about.
Yes, but Eric, don't you understand the children?
Well, yeah, we got to stop that.
You got to save
from
the children.
Yep.
That's what this is really about. Okay. Don't forget.
Yeah,
initially,
not the government.
Not this isn't about control or monetization. No. Initially, the system was fairly limited. It only included photos of people who had applied to become Australian citizens. And use of the database was supposed to be limited to a handful of government agencies with a compelling need for it. Isn't it always? We won't use this for nefarious purposes at all.
So I applied to be a citizen of Australia. Yeah. Yeah, they wanted a photograph of me in case I wanted to do pornography.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking about moving somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know about this Australia thing anymore.
Man, I guess there's places that they just cut your head off, but...
Well, really?
So, maybe it's all right. I don't know.
I find that a little harsh, but whatever. But since then, the government has steadily expanded the system. Big surprise. Photos from other sources were added to the database, and Australia has been trying to develop a more sophisticated face identification service that can identify unknown persons.
Okay, that's kind of weird.
Well, if they're unknown, how do you?
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing.
Have to be known somebody, or does it just go? I think you're Phil.
Right. You look like a Phil to me. You're Phil.
You're Phil.
From here on out, forever.
It changes all your dog.
Yeah.
You're like, shit, I'm Phil.
Yeah.
Maybe I've been Phil all this time. Didn't even know it.
Oh man.
Okay, and as the latest proposal demonstrates, the government is becoming more comfortable, perhaps even enthusiastic about the technology being used by the private sector.
I'm sure they're going to be lining up for that.
That's good stuff. Whilst they are primarily designed to prevent identity crime, Home Affairs would support the increased use of the document face verification services from across the Australian economy and strengthen age verification processes, the government wrote. So that is their government jumping on board and saying, we just love Facebook and all of its intrusions into our privacy. Like, let's partner up, pal, you know. But still a few roadblocks remain. Quote, the face verification service is not yet fully operational. I think that battle station's fully operational. The government acknowledges whilst it is intended to be made available to private sector organizations in the future, this will be subject to the passage of the Identity Matching Service Bill 2019, which is currently before Parliament. Earlier this year, the United Kingdom came close to establishing its own system for age verification pornography consumers, but the British system didn't mandate the use of any specific technology, instead leaving it up to porn sites to decide how best to verify the user's age. That system was scheduled to take effect on July 15th, but days before the deadline and under fire from privacy advocates, the government put it on indefinite hold.
Hey, they're getting like pissed off. Well,
this face verification shit, man. Devlin, can you find that they make these masks now that you put on? Mm-hmm. No, it's like Rorschach from.
They keep you from being identified.
What
right?
is that? Yeah, well, they change. It's like the ink blot test. From I can't remember.
Watchmen.
The Watchmen, right? But it basically, as you breathe, it changes from like black to white, so it gives you that full blown Rorschach sort of effect. I saw that someplace, like you can buy it. But anyway, there's a lot of this kind of stuff, masks that you can put on that obscure your face, that have geometric designs that mess the cameras all up so they can't identify you.
Well, I was thinking I would just sell my face to the robot people.
And then they would reproduce it enough that they wouldn't even know which one was actually you.
Right. And I already used that app, and the Russians are using my face for prophylactics on billboards in Russia, you know.
Thank God, right?
Yeah. The age filter.
Prophylactics, your face.
Yeah, it's a good face for prophylactics.
You can be proud of that, right?
Yeah, it's a good face for prophylactics. Of course.
I don't know if you were able to find anything on that, Devlin. If not, don't worry about it. We'll move on. But you can look it up. I saw it. It was really neat. It was all temperature things. So when you were breathing on it, it would change colors. But getting to be there's a market for face obscuring technologies now, right? Masks, basically. What's our next article, big guy? Boom, boom, boom. Secret Air Force space plane lands after more than 2 years in orbit. This is from NPR. NPR. After a record-breaking 780 days circling the Earth, the U.S. You got to scroll down a little, man, because their stupid ad play video button thing is obscuring the text. There we go. U.S. Air Force's mysterious X-37B U-25 space modulator. Unmanned space plane dropped out of orbit and landed safely on the same runway that the space shuttle once used. It was the fifth acknowledged mission for the vehicle built by Boeing at aerospace company's Phantom Works. It's doing alien research.
Yeah.
This is actually them putting up satellites they don't want anybody else to know about.
Probably so.
But you couldn't do that with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It was too public.
It's too national.
So now the Air Force has got its own space shuttle. Quote, today marks an incredibly exciting day for the 45th Space Wing. So we already have a Space Force.
Yeah.
We just have a name for it now.
The 45th Space Wing.
Brigadier General Doug Shiz, 45th Space Wing commander, said in a statement, quote, our team has been preparing for this event, and I'm extremely proud to see their hard work and dedication culminate in today's safe and successful landing of the X-37B. Yeah, because the alternative would be what?
The unsafe landing?
That would be what we call a crash of a very expensive piece of military equipment.
So it was up there for 2 years.
Pretty much. As in previous missions, many of the details about the vehicle's activities in the past 2 years have been kept under wraps. Our experiment was to test experimental electronics and oscillating heat pipe technologies in long-duration space environment, according to the Air Force statement. Mm-hmm. Bullshit.
They've been dying to test that stuff
I know,
out.
all
Man.
shit that we could easily test in a vacuum chamber in a lab. We had to spend 2 years in space doing that one.
Uh-huh.
Know what I mean? Walden's statement sparked a reaction from some, such as Jonathan McDowell, an astronomer at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics who keeps tabs on the registration of satellites. Quote, the statement that this at U.S. Air Force X-37 flight deployed small satellites is alarming, since the U.S. has not reported those deployments in its UN registration convention submissions. McDowell tweeted, this could be the first time that either the USA or Russia has blatantly flaunted the convention. Uh-oh. Scroll down, Mr. Devlin.
Cold War gets a little hotter.
It's a little warmer. The Air Force is believed to have 2 of the 29-foot-long reusable X-37s, which resemble miniature space shuttles, blah, 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 blah. So they're up to,
they're up to
secret
nefarious Black
shit.
Knight stuff.
You think it's an expansion on the Black Knight alien satellite program?
Could be. It's a good fit.
You think?
Yeah. It's in space. It's covert. It's doing stuff.
I think what we're looking at is the modern version of like the SR-71 spy plane or the U-2 spy plane, right? Is what this is now. It's just not black. Right, and they don't hide the fact that they launch it and recover it. But once it's in space, unless you have very specialized type hardware, you can't see what it's doing. So basically, you can't see what it's doing.
It's like a Black Knight.
Yeah, who knows, man? They could be putting those. They could be storing nuclear weapons, immediate launch nuclear weapons that would only have to then go from orbit straight down to the Earth.
I mean, if I was playing Civ, I probably would.
Wouldn't you do it? Be like, we have you surrounded, bitches. Everybody needs to chill out. All right, what we got on the next article list there, Mr. Devlin? What have we got here? Oh, more military stuff. I thought this one was funny, given some of the shit we talk about.
Yeah. Which I can say I immediately don't believe what's happening there.
You don't believe what it's saying?
No.
So we talk a lot about UFOs, right?
Not unless they're doing that from the ground up, like they're trying to develop a way as opposed to use alien technology.
I think it goes without question that the military, if it could find out a way to produce anti-gravity, it would.
Sure, anybody, but
it would be very advantageous to the U.S. military or any military. So this is from The Drive, their section called The War Zone. The truth is the military has been researching anti-gravity for nearly 70 years.
Truth.
Decades-old questions about the potential existence of a fantastical anti-gravity propulsion technologies have resurfaced following the new Navy's own disclosure of encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena and our own original reporting on a series of bizarre patents assigned to the U.S. Navy that seem to defy our current understanding of physics. Fucking Navy. It's always those Navy guys. And aerospace propulsion. While the discussion continues over whether any such technologies are feasible, the truth is that the theoretical concepts behind them are anything but new. In fact, the U.S. military and the federal government have been formally researching these radical concepts since the 1950s. And according to our own research, those efforts have continued on to this very day. We're getting hoverboards, I'm telling you.
All right, I hope so.
Our own speeders like Star Wars.
Yeah, we always get a little bit of fallout from those once they get into it.
I want my own protocol droid. I want
Astro droid.
I want my own lightsaber. In our drive into what seems like something of a bottomless rabbit hole of government studies and to the exotic scientific claim, we have collected a body of research, news reports, and firsthand accounts. These establish the fact that the types of, quote, anti-gravity, propellantless propulsion, and mass reduction technologies described in the Navy's recent UFO patents are at least based on more than 60 years of peer-reviewed research.
Such that it is.
Conducted and published by the likes of the American Institute of Physics, NASA, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and the Air Force Research Laboratory. Come on down, buddy. So it says, while we can't say that any of this research led to actually being able to harness, quote, anti-gravity, well, big words giveth, or extremely advanced next generation propulsion technologies to any useful extent. Well, there pretty much lies everything. The most advanced laboratories under control of both the armed forces and the academic world have certainly been trying to do their best to get there for the better part of a century. Also, keep in mind that all of this information comes from unclassified sources, and there's definitely more of it than just what is represented here.
Did you get it figured out yet? No. But could we have this big giant disc of copper with a hole in the middle and some diamond, ruby, sort of sapphires on the edge that we can shoot a laser into?
I wonder if they don't do this on purpose, like it's a Cold War era thing to make other countries think that they have technologies that they actually don't have, so that they'll invest billions of dollars into trying to figure it out and waste it.
If so, it sounds like we've been duped.
Well, there was a lot.
We're investing billions of dollars into
No, I'm not sure about that, because I think that was kind of the big joke about like the Star Wars stuff from the 1980s under Ronald Reagan. Was there were programs that showed up funded, all kinds of shit, and they were smoke and mirrors. There was nothing to them because he wanted to get the Russians to pursue all of these different programs. Think enough. So it was like a disinformation campaign. Imagine that. Where we heard that recently.
Well, he was known for talking about UFOs too in speeches.
Yeah, and I think his wife, if I remember right, was famous for utilizing psychics and stuff.
Astrology in particular.
There's a rumor that those far viewers, those guys that do far viewing, back in the 80s when they were still, believe it or not, the military was involved in this shit. And it's hilarious. If you can find all kinds of videos. I can't think of what the guy's name was, but he, was teaching martial arts to like special forces guys. I think there was a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats. That's basically based on this true story of this weird program that the military got duped by this guy, and he could like stare at clouds and make them dissipate. So they thought he had some mind. Turns out he was just duping everybody. But they spent a lot of money on him. He's still alive today. Like there's books and stuff written on him and shit.
That's really an accomplishment given how many people the government has lost.
I wish I could think of what that guy's name was. I can't think of his name. It's a hilarious story. Like the guy that was actually in the military that sort of spearheaded the duping, or got duped first. I don't know how you would call it. The head duped, the lead duped, the pigeon, as it were. He believed so much in this guy that this guy had talked this dude into believing that if you got your mind in the right place, you could like walk through walls. So periodically this guy, and it's in the movie, periodically this guy would get himself in such a psyched up state that he thought he could go through a wall, and he would just run full blast into the wall. Bam! And people in the office would hear him hit the wall. And he like broke his nose, like he cut his head, all kinds of shit. But he kept trying because he believed in this guy so much that he kept doing this. I think ultimately it was an embarrassment. But anyway, the far viewers were all sort of tied into that mess. And I think Nancy Reagan called them they got known as like the White House's witches because she would go in and ask them questions, and they would do their far viewing thing, which is a whole nother. If you ever get the chance to check that out, that's neat as fuck. You know what far viewing is,
yeah,
right?
remote viewing, far
remote
viewing.
Yeah, remote viewing. That's what it's called. I'm calling it far.
I think
viewing.
they call it far viewing.
It's like an interchangeable.
I think
kind
so.
of thing.
I've heard it both ways.
It's a trippy shit, man, but it's fascinating. I don't know if any of it works, but. Okay, where are we at? We can only wonder how much work has been done in the classified realm on what was once openly considered the next massive revolution in aerospace technology. So let's go ahead and scrap this, because basically it's already told us that it's not going to tell us anything new. It's just, these are the publicly released documents.
Yeah.
And I don't know that any of this isn't anything more than just a misinformation campaign that they, so especially given the age, 30, 40 years, some of them. It seems very Cold War-ish to me. That's what that shit actually is.
Reminds me of Vermanas and how they were trying to get their anti-gravity out of like spinning discs of various metals and stuff.
Well, that's where that reference to the disc of copper and shoot it with a laser. Where'd you get that from? Ancient Aliens or something?
No, an amalgamation of shit that I've heard, It just sounds like one of the things that they would come up with. Yeah, based on some I've heard about Vermanas, I've heard about this. Let's try this,
Right.
I mean, it's like modern day alchemy, It's like neo alchemy.
You think?
I do, yeah.
In the sense of self-transmutation, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Like they're trying to invent things like anti-gravity with all of these weird methods that don't make any real sense.
So instead of lead to gold, now it's
whatever,
it's
anti-gravity,
or over unity, infinite energy. And
with little square metal fuel modules and with no moving parts, and things that you can't touch, and like all that weird stuff that's always got something to do with metal and how the metal's folded. It's almost like alchemy in the sense that they're trying to figure out if we fold it this way, or if we use these elements, or if we do these things, maybe it's just going to work,
right?
But there's no moving parts, and there's no connections, and there's no real physics behind it. So to me it's like modern day alchemy, where they're trying to get something out of nothing.
Yeah. But they are making that aside. There have been some really, really remarkable advances in things like material science and shit lately with the advent. But they give Nobel Prizes to them fuckers.
Yeah, and it's
like
usually
graphene. That's a Nobel Prize winning thing.
Well, it's usually on a molecular level too. It's not like how they're folding or cutting something or how they place it in something. It's like, or shooting a laser through it. It seems like it's some sort of molecular thing that they've designed.
It's just not some shade tree mechanic in their garage banging stuff out necessarily. It seems to be something that's being done at a very highly specific and specialized way.
Yeah,
is what's bringing kind of these new advancements along.
Yeah, and when they make that stuff, they haven't really got any immediate applications that they can use it for. I mean, they do, but there's nothing set up.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being too
judgmental,
skeptical, and judgmental.
What's the word you were saying? Maybe. Maybe
I am.
All right, Mr. Dowling, can you bring that back up?
Maybe a copper disc with a gem in it, shooting a laser through
it, and you got anti-gravity. It's pretty simple. I don't know why everybody's struggling with this, man.
The Egyptians had it.
You know what I'm talking
obviously,
about. Yeah. They had flying carpets, man. Of course they had anti-gravity, right?
Well, there's actually people that believe that they had anti-gravity.
Well, that's how they made the pyramids too.
Yeah.
It was the same magic carpet.
Yeah.
Magic threads. Telling you, man, it's crazy stuff. Look it up.
Black Knight.
This one comes from Live Science, the Black Knight satellite, a hodgepodge of alien conspiracy theories. Now, we've talked about the Black Knight satellite before, and we actually looked it up and had pictures and stuff of it.
Yeah, this is a really good picture. I like that picture of it.
It says, for decades, different discoveries have been linked to a single possible spacecraft of extraterrestrial origin.
Just hanging out
out there. So
that's nice. It's like Boba Fett's ship.
It does kind of look like Boba Fett's ship.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dylan? Does that look like Boba Fett's ship? Thumb up, thumb down? Thumb down. He doesn't like it. He thinks you're full of shit.
I am.
And
we're done.
No, guess we're done. We're going to get a reference here, aren't we? Now he's going to tell you what it's about.
Right on. Yeah, there it is.
Now, I disagree with Mr. Devlin. I think you're right. I think that kind of looks like Boba Fett's ship. I think that one especially. Go back to the other picture, Mr. Devlin. We're looking at that same ship from the side. So
yeah, I mean, not exactly.
This is the round part here. This is the porthole, and this is the side, and then that's the back. So I think that does not look of natural origins. It looks like that thing has been made.
Yes,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
So does that, but that's made by Hasbro.
That looks way cooler, though.
Anyway, scrolling down, Bubba. Sometimes the introduction of a news report will stop you in your tracks, forcing you to reread in fear you didn't quite grasp its point the first time. That was certainly the case when Mail Online published a story on March 21st, 2017, quote, "An alien satellite set up more than 12,000 years ago to spy on humans has been shot down by elite soldiers from the Illuminati," UFO hunters claim.
That's what it was like when I got married a second time, too. The fear I didn't quite grasp what happened the first time or what the point of it was.
Oh, I get it now. I was going, oh my God, how do we put this together?
We try it again.
I thought it was more of the being shot down. It felt like being shot down by elite Illuminati soldiers.
Just fear that I missed the point of what it was all about the first time.
Yeah. Well, obviously, either could be true in this case. And with that, the conspiracy surrounding the so-called Black Knight satellite appeared to be very much alive. It's been 120 years since conspiracists believe the existence of the Black Knight was recorded.
A modern myth.
Modern myth.
Yeah.
120 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Those who subscribe to the theory lay claim of an extraterrestrial spacecraft in near polar orbit of the Earth. Right. So it hangs around like the North or South Pole, from what I understand. Although they draw upon evidence so disparate that it's not entirely clear why people link them. Who knows? What they amount to, however, is an intriguing set of ingredients that, taken together, can cause people to scream loud about potential cover-ups by NASA and the government. In that sense, it is a legend that refuses to go away.
Well, see, Matt, people are weak.
And we can't tell them the truth, Eric.
That's right. No.
Well, I think we've discovered recently, I was one of those people that believed, I was really hopeful in that I thought that the problem was the availability of information. I thought that once everybody had that device, like the tricorder from Star Trek, where you could look up any fact anytime you wanted, was going to like unburden mankind somehow and free everybody in this weird sort of feel the love, dancing in the park barefoot sort of
We
thing.
all know the same thing.
Yeah. It turns out, however, that I was wrong and most people are just dumb as shit. Sorry to say. That's just the way it is. The photo evidence that isn't evidence. A lot of the earliest discoveries that have come to be linked to the Black Knight satellite theory relate to radio signals. SOS, all that. But a series of images from 1998 emerged that really threw a celestial cat among the pigeons. Get the aeronautics reference there? Okay. They were taken during STS-88, which was the first space shuttle mission to the International Space Station. There, for all to see, were images released by NASA that showed a black object hovering above the Earth in low orbit. And it wasn't long after the images were thrust in front of a hopeful public before people were performing some conspiratorial sums and sharing them with the wider world.
Was told that was a booster rocket.
It kind of does look like it could be like the fairing or something off of a booster rocket. I'm sorry. Alien spy satellite. By way of explanation, astronaut Jerry Ross pointed out that the ISS was in the midst of being constructed when the images were taken. The U.S. team, he said, was on its way to attach the American module to the one created by the Russians, and as part of that work, they had taken 4 trunnion pin thermal covers with them. Say that again. Trunnion pin thermal covers.
I don't think I could say it once.
Yeah. The task was to wrap these around 4 bare trunnion pins. Boy, we're getting deep in the weeds here. Trunnion pins.
Deep in the trunnions.
These being rods that attach the module to the shuttle while it was being transported. This would act to prevent heat loss from the exposed metal. Okay. So one of them broke free. Yeah, here it is. Unfortunately, during one of the extravehicular activities, things went a little bit wrong. One of the covers came loose from its tether, causing it to float away along with some other items. Jerry, one of the thermal covers, got away from you, said Commander Robert Cabana, and it soon became apparent that they wouldn't be getting it back.
And now you've contributed to modern myth.
Yeah, that's how it, so this is what it is. That's basically what they're saying.
Yeah.
Subsequently captured on camera, this black object was given the object number 025570 by NASA, so now we can track it, because you would have to, because they don't want other satellites hitting it, right?
Right.
Or we wouldn't want Elon's satellites hitting it. And a few days later, the object fell from orbit and burned up. So it's gone. Far from being an extraterrestrial object, the black item floating in space was nothing more than a blanket. Okay, let's go back and look at the picture, Devlin. Well, there it is. That definitely looks like a blanket in space there, doesn't it?
It certainly could be.
All right, well, we've dispelled a myth. Well, I don't know if we have. Somebody has tried.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I like Alien Spy Satellite a lot better.
I do too. I would have rather have been that. Oh, look, there's that.
This is astronaut debris, what is likely to be. Also, it's just saying what it is. You can see bright highlights. Yeah, but yeah, because if that's one of them reflective things, you know, like those reflective thermal blankets, you can get them to go camping with. But if you were seeing it in space and it was reflecting like the light of the Earth, back at you in the sun and different things, it would look really strange. It'd be, what is that?
Yeah, man, the government would be all over that if there was a satellite up there and they didn't know whose it was and it was in their space, especially by the SSI, right? Like where it's a multi governmental
ISS, International Space Station.
I mean, they would go and check it out.
I would certainly think so.
Right.
Well, how do you explain that? I mean, there's a lot of NASA footage, though, of objects that you can see from the International Space Station of something moving through the picture frame and literally turning around and going back the other direction. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm watching a black and white video camera on a light post somewhere, and I see a bug do that, I don't give it a second thought. So when I'm watching that video, it's not necessarily peculiar until it's pointed out that this is in space, and things that are moving through space don't change direction unless they exert some sort of thrust or something is acting upon them.
Yeah,
right.
And there's also, like when they're taking those pictures alongside of our own spacecraft and stuff,
right?
There's a lot of things that could be coming off of our own spacecraft that could cause a particle of that light to move in another direction or to go back, like a little bit of air escaping for whatever reason, or thrusters maneuvering could potentially cause.
It will put a discharge into space.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that's out there that, like on the ship.
So you think this stuff is all explainable, and it's not necessarily that they're seeing the same thing that Commander, whatever his name is there.
And it's little particles too. I mean, even if it is moving around in a different way, it's just, isn't it like little particles? I mean,
I don't know. I'm speaking generally about. I see these on conspiracy theorist websites and stuff about how they see stuff in space changing directions. I have no opinion per se. I'm like, that could be manufactured by somebody. They could have edited the film themselves to do that. For all I know,
they used to think those bugs were a phenomenon called rods.
And it was just it was actually just a way that the software was interpreting something instead.
Like the bugs flying by, essentially, yeah.
And it would see them as like a zigzag kind of thing.
Or just like a rod with like things going around it. Like they thought they were like interdimensional things.
Yes.
And it was like on some documentaries and stuff until they just realized it was bugs. I mean, I don't know what exactly you were looking at, but if it sounded like it was small or something, I mean, if it's really big, that would be a different situation.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen those or not.
Well, there's so much of this, right? And the only thing that I think that I have any faith in whatsoever is the Navy stuff. Given that the United States Navy's admitted to it, like they've come out and said, what would be the point of admitting to that, and to say, yeah, it happened, and we don't know what it is, So I think that's about the only thing I have like a high level of faith in. And I'm not saying that we won't find out ultimately. Like, obviously, there's an explanation for it. We just don't know what it is yet.
Well, when I was 10 years old, I would get these UFO magazines and read about UFO books and things like that, and I would like think, man, with all these things being reported and the communications, and everybody's got a Polaroid camera, it won't be that long, man. Someone's going to find some indisputable evidence. Now I just turned 50. And I'm like, wow, man, people got all these phones and cameras and stuff.
Yeah,
and
everything's
with communication being the way it is, man, I bet it's just a matter of time before somebody finds irrefutable evidence.
Nothing. Well, okay, so here comes the question then. I think his name's Commander Farber or something like that. Fravor? Fravor, maybe?
Yeah,
Does that sound right, Commander Fravor? Anyway, he and the stuff that these two F-18s caught was way off the coast, out of the let's say 99.999% of the population of the Earth's visible view. These guys just happen to be out there. It's very lonely when you get out on the ocean, by the way. It's very big. So maybe they know, and if that's the case, like, remember, they were actively it was actively jamming them, so they don't. If this thing is an entity, if it has intelligence, it would know certainly enough how to avoid cameras and where to stay away from. But occasionally it appears that they do get caught.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And as much as they can be caught.
Yeah. What does that mean? Like, okay, we've seen something
caught on film.
That's about it.
Yeah, man. And when they actively jammed his thing, it makes me think it's got to be human, in some degree. And that's why I guess my favorite theory is, dimensional time traveling type situation. Maybe us ourselves doing this somehow.
There's what it is there is an actual like Bond. So if it's human, then there is some sort of like Bond villain level organization.
I mean, it could be even if it's in the future.
Even if it's you're saying that they can time
I think that it's time travel.
You think it's interdimensional?
I think it's interdimensional time travel. I think,
really?
Yeah, I think it's time travel. I think
that's very woo for you, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think it's
do tell. I'm sorry. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, you didn't know that's what I was saying, man. I
thought you were just positing that as a possibility.
No, I mean, if I had to come up with a belief, if I had to give my best explanation that wasn't just, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is what I normally say. I mean, my guess would be it's time travelers. It's ourselves coming from the past, or the future, rather. Has found some way, maybe, of traveling in the past or projecting back into the past.
Okay.
And are able to make changes and effects and stuff that look bizarre to us, but, in the overall scheme of things, is supposed to yield a positive result,
right?
In the end. But because it's like they know what to do. If they know how to jam something of a particular place and time, that seems like really specific information. I mean, that's more specific than the Russians or the Chinese could have, right? They wouldn't know exactly what they needed to do and where to be and how to jam things. I wouldn't think, right? And
the other countries certainly would. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying not that far inland and doing things like that, like that you see reports and stuff.
Right.
Like, I think any country that had that ability would have used it in a different way. They would have just invaded or whatever they're doing, or done what they, like they're.
Because it doesn't necessarily seem to be nefarious in any way.
No. So that makes me think it's not some foreign country. And the knowledge that these things seem to have, when they have knowledge, seems like weirdly specific, just like with the jamming of the radar and stuff. Like, I don't know. I mean, just
that does
stuff.
Seem very specific, right? Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
I mean, it's not like it's a future. It's not like an alien craft that just came here. It might be able to jam something, but it would probably do so in a way that was really obvious. It would something that was like an overkill or something. It wouldn't be just, okay, jam it and go on. I don't know, man.
Oh, you're given the ability to traverse space time, right? Why would they specifically know to jam F-18 Super Hornet radar?
Yeah, it's almost like they showed up with the ability to do the mission.
Absolutely necessary to do
for that mission.
Yeah.
So like if they knew that there was a chance that they would have encounters with these particular aircraft of that particular time, so they had a particular defense that they immediately activated, like they were planning on it. It didn't seem like it, it's like you would think of it, maybe it was an alien craft, they would just shoot a laser at him,
right,
and blow him out of the sky and leave, like what do they care?
Yep.
But it's like they're trying not to hurt us. They're trying not to like just kill anybody. I mean, you don't hear of anything like, oh my God, these aliens, I seen this UFO and it came down and shot my house and it killed my dog, Right. It's like they don't really seem to be a threat in that way, like an invasion way.
Seems odd though, man. Like so there have been a significant amount of sightings, for lack of a better word, right, that have been very specific about this exact same type of description that go way back into history, right? So implying that it's some sort of governmental organization,
or it's
because we're talking, when I say way back in history, I'm not talking about going back to the Nazis here. You've explained this to me, right? That this kind of stuff goes way back.
Yeah.
Into like the 1600s, 1400s, and before.
Yeah, like into ancient Egyptian times.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. I didn't know how far. Yeah, I didn't want to.
That was the first recorded UFO sighting was by the Egyptians. But what if it was just the opposite of that? What if it was all the same looking because it came from one time instead of one place? I
agree. Yeah,
like if you could project back into any time throughout your history that would be linear, you would record those same things, right?
Yeah, but okay, so let's say that organization exists today, modern, and exists today, and has the control to project itself back in time. Whew, here we go. Let me get my sonic screwdriver out here. I'm gonna need it for this one, right? Okay, so I gotta open this, right? Here we go. There we go. All right, I'm ready. And you got so let's say it goes back in time and then it gets seen.
Yeah.
And gets recorded somehow.
Okay.
Then that creates a history that has to rip through our reality and show up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it would be on a for instance basis.
Okay, so
you're saying that, so if that were true, then there are sightings that haven't even happened yet.
Yeah.
But when they do happen, and all the news articles and everything associated will just pop into our memories and everything, so that it seems
well, and that's assuming that they wouldn't go back and change something so that they didn't get caught or photographed so well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, say they did get caught.
I'm not saying they get caught every time.
Or photographed really well.
But obviously they do. They get seen, all right? So this happens. So how does that work, right? So that's like it's blowing a hole through reality every time something like that happens. Or if they go back and actually affect change in history.
Well, there's different theories, first of all, on how that would work, right? Depending on what theory you're operating under, it would make a difference, right? But let's, for the sake of the conversation, assume that anything that they do, it changes history, so that when the time traveler comes back to his present, which is now for us, if that was us, right? Things would be different, and we would know, right? The assumption is, though, that time is like a river, and that if you make a correction, it tends to correct itself back into the normal flow, right? It's difficult to change the course of history in a great way, right? So if that is the case, then some changes made, you'd be able to come back. You'd pretty much be in the same reality that you left. There'd just be some facts that were different, right? Like that Mandela effect sort of a thing, right? Wouldn't be like anything
the Nelson Mandela thing, right? That's
little things like that. Not like your whole world is different, and now there's like flying cars or aliens or something. But just like you come back and like, okay, this event happened or this didn't. If that's the theory you're working under, then that would mean that there could be a lot of missions to make something happen the way you wanted it to happen. You'd have to change a lot of little things that would eventually amount up,
effect.
That would amount up to one big thing you're trying to change, right? Otherwise, you say this is the person that shot the person that you want to live, you would shoot him, but then the universe would make it so that this guy ends up getting hit by a car and dies, right? So the effect of what you wanted still didn't happen. You have to change a bunch of shit. You might change it 5 times. That you, first of all, you killed the guy that was going to kill him. Great, but then he got hit by a car. Then you stop that car from happening. Then he has a heart attack. Then you do something back further in time that assures he's going to live another year.
So then he's not even there where he's supposed to be for this whole event. Yeah,
right. You start complicating
the trickle-down effects get crazy.
Yeah, and so there's only so much work you can put in on the hind end of something to change the front end, right?
Right.
But at one, but you could go back and do it again and again and again. It would just be you're adding more and more complications. And if time works like that river, then time's always going to try to compensate. Right. It's always going to try to push things back the way it was supposed to be. And so you have to control a lot of variables. And some of those variables you would inevitably create yourself. So it wouldn't be something that you might have to make really small changes, right? Yeah. You might have to boil some seawater for some reason. Who knows, man? What was that thing doing?
Right.
It was doing something like this.
Disturbing the water and like a cross. Hex.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Nothing.
What could it possibly mean?
Why does it want spent torpedoes?
Why would aliens do that if they did come here? Why would they drive back and forth over the water until they got caught by the Air Force?
I got a theory. You want to hear my wild ass theory? I think that the simulation leaks memory, and we're starting to get close to needing a reset.
Or it's going to break down.
Or it'll just lock up. Yeah. And with that, actually what we're seeing as this stuff is we're seeing through the simulation.
Okay. That's a possibility.
Okay. And we're getting real close to the reset. Okay. And this will be, how, but some people will survive the reset, and some people won't survive the reset.
So it's like
very apocalyptic, sort of a death cult, sort of apocalyptic.
So when you say simulation, do you mean like a computer simulation that's something like deities or aliens are running?
That there is some intelligence running, yes. Okay. But I don't know that intelligence is even organic of any kind.
Right. It doesn't have to be intelligence. Well, and that was something.
I'm not saying that because I don't know that the universe doesn't have some sort of intelligence, given how super huge it is.
Yeah.
That it somehow develops what do we know? All right. I guess maybe I'm going out too far on a weird metaphysical limb here, but.
Well, it's not completely metaphysical. Leonard Susskind, who won the Black Hole Wars.
Yes.
He's
the guy I can never remember, but won the subscription to Playboy magazine.
Yeah.
Leonard Susskind.
Leonard Susskind, Kip Thorne, and Stephen Hawking were the ones involved. And, Hawking was talking about black holes with his Hawking radiation and how they would kind of evaporate, and that's what the event horizon was. And I think Kip Thorne was taking a standard view, which was just that light went
standard in model views.
Yeah, just that light would go in and couldn't escape. And Leonard Susskind was the guy that won by saying that it was a place where time stopped and where all three-dimensional information was made two-dimensional information. And it was from those calculations, the fact that anything three-dimensional could be represented without a loss of information in two dimensions, that started making people question whether we lived in a simulation or not. And that because if you look too closely at anything, it will pixelate out.
They call it the Planck scale, right? It's where everything starts to pixelate.
Yeah.
That's named after
Max Planck. Yeah.
Right. I like it because my homeboy Elon Musk is I think is a big fan as well of the we live in a simulation sort of idea. But I think that's it's it's as good as fucking explanation as anybody. It could be, it's aliens and it's this and that. Yeah, fuck it. The simulation leaks memory and we're getting real close to needing to reset it.
Yeah. Could it be a natural simulation?
I think it's very plausible that if the universe can in and of itself may have some sort of intelligence, right? That we're part of that we're sort of simulated into that in a sense. So yeah, I think it very much could be that. Yeah, maybe the universe is just like a brain, and it's everything we see is like parts of the neural network.
Maybe my poem is just a physical manifestation of a thought and a dream that the universe had while it was asleep, simulating us.
But do androids dream of electric sheep?
Mm-hmm.
I think they do.
I think so.
Philip K. Dick thinks so.
Yeah, with unicorns and all that kind of stuff.
This is the last month that we can say that Blade Runner, for a nice segue there, is a movie that takes place in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
As of November.
I thought we were living it now.
Today. Yeah. November 1st, 2019.
Yeah.
Is Blade Runner now becomes a movie about the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to go in and edit that title screen, that first title screen.
They could, yeah.
Here we are, man. Remember when we saw that movie the first time and what was going to be like, living in that time? Yeah. What do? We podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like that whole waiting for UFO things, right? Like waiting for the future that you see in movies, and you'll get right to that spot, and it seems like you're not. It's nothing like you thought it was going to be. Yeah. Or what the movie portrayed it as.
But, then again, we're here in so many ways that is way bigger and better than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Any kid that watched Star Trek, me, you, okay, when we were little, was very into these tools that they had, the phasers and stuff. Okay. So, we have a tricorder for all intents and purposes. It just doesn't have any way of doing health diagnostics yet.
A lot of the tools came along, but none of the cultural shifts ever came along.
Like it was going to be so freeing and people. Well, I think that in large part is due to the cap on and control of energy at the end of the day.
I wonder I wonder what year it was. I think it was, we're way past that. Highlander 2. Where they had this big shield around the Earth because the ozone layer was gone.
Oh, that was a weird movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, they made like 2 or 3 versions of it.
They did, yeah. And I guess if you watch the unedited version or like the director's cut, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get past the horrible movie
flying
release version.
Skateboard effect.
All of that was a little bizarre. Where were we going with this? Cap on energy. I think that when you look at like the Roddenberry universe, they had the dilithium crystals, right? So they had these abundant forms of energy that could just create massive amounts of energy, right?
No, what that was, the lithium crystals, they were able to channel antimatter without a lot of degradation.
Right.
So the energy that they were using was antimatter, which we actually have in real life. But what we don't have in real life is some kind of a crystal that could interact with that and survive without just blowing up. But they were right about antimatter, and they were right about containing it in a magnetic field.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about Next Generation, they're always talking about the magnetic field getting thin or whatever.
Right.
That's because you don't want that shit to touch anything else or it will annihilate it. So, but they were able to use the lithium to channel that shit into things, and we still got to fix that fiction part. We've got the power out there. We just need to find a way to harness it.
Yeah, it exists. But that's what I think. That's why I think we have the tools, but we don't actually have the ethos in the world that was manifest from that, because my philosophy on this is that once you make energy so abundant it's basically free, then it frees everything else to be kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need for anything. There is no. I mean, why would you even need a monetary system if anybody could get as much as they need at any time, or you would make it so unbelievably cheap that it wouldn't be a big deal anyway.
Well, just like we had talked, I think once before about if you had replicators, like unlimited power, right, and you could replicate, for instance, on an atomic level, meaning you could literally change lead into gold, or you could change lead into a tasty steak,
right,
or an acoustic guitar or whatever. Like your whole concept of material items,
there would be no possessions.
No,
because when you're done with it, you put it back in the replicator,
exactly,
and then it just sort of stores it, takes it back apart and stores the material someplace else and then whatever you want next.
No dishes.
No,
you just put them in the replicator. If it was cold outside, You'd replicate a coat before you left your buddy's house, and then unreplicate it when you went home.
And then nothing would also, because if I wanted a copy of the Mona Lisa, I could literally have an exact copy of the Mona Lisa. So then the Mona Lisa, the original Mona Lisa, which would be stored.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, because anybody could have it.
And that's why on Next Generation you would see they had really Spartan rooms.
Yeah.
And they
just got from the replicator anything they wanted.
Well, yeah. And if it wasn't from the replicator, if it was something like this that was sitting on your desk, it was because it meant something to you. It was nostalgic, or somebody gave it to you and it was special. And so you would put it on your desk and you would never unreplicate it, but you could. But
you could store, like, so moving would be just taking all your possessions, poking them into a replicator.
Yeah.
And then you would, I guess we would beam ourselves, right? We would use our teleporter to get to the next location, and then go into that space, and then just start pulling my items back out of the replicator. Except now they're all perfectly clean. If they had a scratch on them, it's all
and
the
you wouldn't even have to
gone.
do that. You would only have to pull them out as needed. Like you wouldn't have to unpack. You would just go to the other place, and when you need it to go and
just kind of
to the bathroom, you would replicate toilet paper, toothpaste, and toothbrush, and unreplicate them when you're done.
So after you do the boom boom, you push a button and then it unreplicates that.
Yeah.
So there is no plumbing.
There would be nothing to steal in your house.
No.
You would never hoard anything.
Well, why would you steal? That's what I mean.
Well, true.
What would
why
be the
would
reason
you
to steal? There's nothing you have that I can't have instantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happens?
Well, and they talk about that on Enterprise too. They say there's like certain parts of San Francisco where they hire people to rob people. Just for old time's sake, to get that real feel of living in the 20th century.
Oh my God!
Like there's a part of it that was like the 20th century district, and just like they have people that dress as centurions in and around the Coliseum today, they would have people that would be thieves and that would
like mug you or
pick your pocket, but then they would come and give it back to you, just because they didn't need it.
Because nobody needs it.
Right, it was just for the experience.
That's right. How do we get? Where are we, man? Devlin, where are we at?
We went way down in the Roddenberry world.
No, I mean, it's legit. Look, it's got a resonance for a reason with so many people. But if you kind of peek under the hood, there's some real interesting sort of philosophical things in his whole philosophy.
John Locke would have had an interest in that, given his philosophy.
Next article, dude. John Locke, especially. Yeah. I'm a big old fan.
Yeah, of working something, the land and stuff, and it becoming yours, you know.
Beware, because of private property ownership and self-ownership. So in that case, you would own the self, and that'd
be about it.
That's all you'd need to own.
Yeah. And that's why they kind of got rid of ego. There was really no way to compete egotistically with anyone unless it was through some sort of mental competition. But most people,
or physical,
and most people just did what they were good at, if they did anything.
Right. Yeah, because you could because you weren't dependent upon say working to make a living, because everything would be so damn cheap. You could really just pursue whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
At whatever pace you wanted to pursue it at. In a lot of ways. I'm sure there'd be limitations, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know what they'd be.
Knows?
I mean,
we're getting that, we start building the simulators then, and then we can just put ourselves into the simulator, right? First we go into the replicator.
Then we got holodecks coming.
Holodecks, right? That's what simulator. That's what I meant was holodeck.
Yeah.
So I thought this one was funny. This is from Sky News. Samsung satellite crash lands near rural U.S. house.
And Samsung, same wonderful people that can have your phone unlocked by your neighbor.
By anybody's thumbprint, right? So
they're not doing so well, are they?
So their shit catches on fire. Their satellites fall out of the sky. Their washing machines blow up.
Their phones are not safe.
Ever having a rough go of it. That kind of looks like something. Scroll down there, Devlin. That looks like something that somebody built as a Halloween decoration.
It sure does. It blew over by the wind or something.
I wonder, is that like a parachute connection type thing on it?
Is that a vent?
Yeah. That makes no sense at all. Like, that looks like the furnace vent off of your house. That looks like a saw blade bolted. That has got to be a prop of some sort. Okay, so that being said, there's also no way that any of this shit survives re-entry.
No.
It burns up.
Yeah.
It doesn't come in a giant piece. Scroll down. This has got to be a sarcastic... this is going to be a sarcastic thing. A satellite launched by Samsung into space last week crash landed near a U.S. couple's rural home. Space selfie device, which the company said aimed to capture images using a unique view of the planet Earth as the backdrop. This is bullshit. It was found by Nancy Mumby Welk and her husband on Saturday morning after they heard a loud crash on their property in Gratiot County, Michigan. Yeah, there's no crater. This is something somebody made. This is funny. All right, moving on. I ain't going to do satire. Poor Samsung, though. We believed it for a second, though, didn't we? We were totally like, that could happen.
Well, it was like the picture's like,
that doesn't at all look like a satellite that just crashed.
That looks like a vent and a saw blade and some egg grates.
Well, it had a parachute, right? But it's like, yeah, but parachutes don't work on re-entry. Those come out after re-entry. So this is like a geek article here. High-power SYLOS laser could transmute nuclear waste. So back to our replicators and unlimited energy discussion. One of the big problems with who's this from, Devlin? I'm sorry, I forgot to look at that. Analysis, nuclearenergyinsider.com. So one of the big problems, a lot of reasons why people can't get behind nuclear energy is because of the byproduct, and that it's dangerous, even though there's, like, comparatively speaking, very little of it, tiny amounts. Could put it in a football stadium, on the field of a football stadium kind of thing, super tiny amounts when you figure how much energy comes out of that. But how do you store it and what happens to it? Like, the government built I think it's like $1 billion facility in New Mexico and can't use it because it leaked groundwater. So there's all these problems and there's so little of this shit. This place is massive, and there's so little of this stuff. It basically is like a guy with a dolly kind of moving. I'm
paraphrasing a little bit.
I'm exaggerating just a little bit. So let's see. Two Lithuanian companies and a Nobel Prize-winning professor have created and demonstrated, I like that, a laser powerful enough to reduce nuclear waste decay from hundreds of years to just a few hours. That's pretty fucking good, man. The single cycle laser SYLOS uses technology that transmutes nuclear waste by bombarding atoms and is being developed by 2018 Nobel Physics Prize co-winner Professor Gerard Moreau. Okay, so transmutation, back to alchemy. Here we go again, right?
But with a Nobel Physics Prize, as you pointed out, for people who are on a molecular level doing things.
Moreau and former student Donna Strickland won the Nobel Prize for research in chirped pulse amplification developed in the laboratory for laser energetics at the University of Rochester in the United States. SYLOS was developed by the EKSPLA and light conversion at Hungary's Eli Alps facility in Szeged. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
The aim is to produce the highest intensity laser pulses in the world with the highest repetition rates and shortest pulses, blah, 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 blah. So basically, they figured out a way to use lasers to render nuclear waste pretty much inert.
Yeah.
Hours instead of hundreds of years. So it's no longer dangerous.
Without a copper disc or a ruby.
No rubies.
No copper plates.
No copper plates.
Shot a laser right at it.
Just bam, bitch, done.
I mean, that's a very aggressive bit of science. You just shoot stuff with a laser and make it work. It's cool.
I like it. But if this can take nuclear fuel that exists and comes out of the first and second gen reactors and makes them makes it inert, then you got to fire them bitches back up, man, because that officially now is the greenest technology on the planet. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, we can argue about things like safety, but that's an engineering problem. First and second gen reactors have a high pressure stage that goes kaboom. It's not actually a nuclear explosion. It's the steam section exploding. But the third and fourth generation reactors don't have those issues. Thorium salt reactors don't have those kinds of issues. There's no way for them to blow up like that. But putting that aside, yeah, this becomes the safest, safest, and greenest source of, and most abundant source of energy now on the planet. Waiting. People to figure it out. Who is it again, Eric? That's saving us from ourselves. Who are those people?
Scientists and engineers.
Yeah, funny how that works, huh?
Well, yeah, because I would have always suspected it would have been like the reverends and the politicians.
The people with the books, with the rule books. It's not those folks. No. All right, Devin, what's our next article, big guy? He's dying.
He is dying.
We're gonna have to wrap up here before too much longer. We got 2 articles left. This one was a neat one. This is from Smithsonian.com, so it's legit. Bottle filled with teeth, pins, and mysterious liquid discovered in English chimney.
Yep, they put them in chimneys and small little things like bottles, little kids' shoes, and they would put little objects in like little books sometimes, and teeth and hair.
Is this like putting the time capsule in the keystone of a building or the cornerstone of a building kind of thing?
Spells. It's like spells.
Oh, legit magic type shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Contractors demolishing the chimney of a former inn and pub in Watford, England, recently chanced upon a creepy surprise, namely a bottle full of fish hooks, human teeth, shards of glass, and an unidentified liquid.
Probably pee.
You think? Urine? Like legit. Yeah, you weren't just being facetious? Okay. As BBC, why not holy water?
Because it wouldn't have had the fish hooks and the shards of glass in it. That's more like some kind of a curse or something, I think.
Ooh. It's like a weird prehistoric Molotov cocktail. As BBC News reports, the 19th century vessel is likely a witch bottle or talisman intentionally placed in a building to ward off witchcraft.
Yeah.
Get back, she-devil. The newly discovered bottle is one of more than 100 recovered from old buildings, churchyards, and riverbanks. Oh, so this isn't even unique.
No, they find a lot of them, actually.
Oh, well, you were over there like talking about it. I thought you were you were like legit. You've heard of this before.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Like they found them in little kids' boots, and sometimes there's hair in them. Sometimes there's teeth. Little kids' teeth and things like that. Just depends on what they're used for. Usually the harsher things are like curses or wards or something, and then things that are more benign are more
like a
protection.
Charm. Good luck or protection, that kind of stuff. Interesting.
Comes from Europe. It's
is it part of a religion or it's got to be part of some sort
paganism.
of belief?
It comes,
it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes from earlier than Christianity.
Huh. It says most specimens trace their origins to the 1600s, when continental Europe was in the grips of a major witch panic.
Yeah, that's when it was really big and came over to America eventually from there. But the roots from where it came was really big in that 16th century. Before it got big, it has its roots in ancient paganism.
Interesting.
And got really big.
So
up at this point.
It was a witch panic, and then they were using witchcraft because they were worried about witchcraft. I mean, I'm not following it. Is that like fighting fire with fire kind of idea, or?
Well, there was a lot of people. So you got at this time, this is like before the Reformation.
Okay.
So the Catholic Church, or at least around that time, right, when this was building to a head.
Yeah, it said the 1600s, right?
Yeah. So the church had its Bible in Latin, and the common person couldn't read it, right? So a lot of times they would reach back into their ancestry and what their grandparents and their grandparents did, and these were things they had carried with them in an anthropology sort of a sense, right?
Yeah, sure.
And they would do those things, and so the Catholic Church seen a lot of that, and they started trying to clamp down on that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of was like Christianity was on the rise, but it was also fighting with a group of people who couldn't access the knowledge of Christianity and was going back on their old beliefs.
Oh, because they couldn't read the book themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was in Latin, right?
Yeah. They had, I think the only thing they had was these things called cataclysms.
Yeah.
Which are, or
catechisms.
Catechism or something like that.
No, it's called, trust me, my kids have been there. Catechisms.
Catechisms, yeah. It was like sayings of how to raise your
they still
kids.
do them.
Do they?
Yeah, they still do catechisms. Yeah. Huh. That's exactly what it's called.
Wow.
Yeah, moving forward. Very progressive. Talisman. The newly discovered bottles, more of 100. Most specimens, we already found out. Common contents found in witch bottles includes pins, nails, thorns, urine. Urine, you were right. Son of a bitch, dude. You are a smart motherfucker, dude. I love talking to you. Fingernail clippings and hair.
Yeah.
So you picked out, what, 3 of those?
Yeah.
How do you remember all this shit? It's that big fucking melon of yours, isn't it? This, all kinds of stuff can fit in there. According to BBC News and Watford Property, the Watford Property, now a private residence but formerly known as the Star and Garter Inn. I like that.
Yeah.
I just want to go there and have a drink, man. Fuck it. Is best known as the birthplace of Angeline Tubbs, a woman later nicknamed the Witch of Saratoga. Born in 1761, Tubbs immigrated to the United States. During her teenage years, she settled down in Saratoga Springs, New York, and made a living telling fortunes. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
so,
most of that's apotropism type magic.
What does that mean?
It's basically magic that you perform to ward off the potential of something bad happening to you.
Oh,
like when,
it's like that's like throwing the salt over the shoulder, or don't break a mirror.
Well, and also the eye that you can buy in the Middle East, those talismans that are the glass eyes,
right?
Like, but basically, they need charm that protects you against evil as part of the apotropism study of magic.
Okay. I didn't know that. See, again, just learn that shit. All right, what we got up for the last article there, Mr. Devlin? Coming up here on an hour and a half. Oh, okay. So we just did an article that said, and we had a ball with it. That was talking about how everybody was from Botswana, right? Well, this is from Science Mag, and this is in all fairness because this is what we do here, right? We have to run the counter article to that.
Part of what we do. There's a whole system behind the scenes that nobody sees.
Yeah, sure, believe that. Experts question study claiming to pinpoint birthplace of all human beings. So here's the counter argument to that.
Basin, right? Was it Zambezi?
It was Zambezi, yeah, like Zambezi.
Used to be a big lake called Makakalaka or something like that. As I remember,
we just pissed someone off a lot.
Yeah, but someone from thousands of years ago.
All right, scroll down, Mr. Devlin. It says a new genetic study suggests all modern humans trace our ancestry to a single spot in southern Africa 200,000 years ago. But experts say the study, which analyzes the DNA of living people, is not nearly comprehensive enough to pinpoint where our species arose. This is the great thing about science, right? Okay, because now you're going to have somebody that's going to come out and go,
that's too little people. You need to test way more people.
Your sample set. I find your sample set small.
Yeah, and unimpressive.
And your conclusions derivative. Slap, slap. I'm persuaded that Southern Africa was an important area for human evolution, says population geneticist Alwyn Scally. Aylwin. That person sure sounds qualified. Of the University of Cambridge in the UK, was not involved with the work, but he says studies of living people's DNA can't reveal the precise location of our ancestors. Quote, it would be astonishing if all of our genetic ancestry at this time arose in one small homeland. Modern humans arose in Africa at least 250 to 300,000 years ago, fossils and DNA reveal, but scientists have been unable to pinpoint a more specific homeland because the earliest Homo sapiens fossils are found across Africa, and ancient DNA from American fossils is scarce and not old enough.
I mean, just the fact that they've got it narrowed down to Africa makes me think that that's great. You know, I mean, I thought that was good.
But to say that it comes from a very specific, you're going to have to go up a little bit, buddy. To say it comes from a very specific region, though, is I think what they're saying is you're
narrowing it too much.
You're narrowing it way too much. Okay, so it says in the new study, researchers gathered blood samples from 200 living people in groups whose DNA is poorly known, including foragers and hunter-gatherers in Namibia and South Africa who speak Cochin languages with click consonants. All the clicky people, those folks. The authors analyzed probably just pissed someone else off. The authors analyzed mitochondrial DNA.
They listen to our show.
You think so? In Africa?
I don't know. Who did you piss off?
I don't know.
The people that speak that language, I don't know if they listen.
I have faith, Eric, that someone's going to be tuning in someday and they're going to come across that and go, I'm not listening to the show ever again. I have faith.
Yeah.
A type of DNA inherited only from mothers, and compared it to the
mitochondria deoxyribonucleic acid.
You to man in databases for more than 1,000 other Africans, mostly from southern Africa. Then the researchers sorted out how all the samples were related to each other on a family tree. That sounds very much like Elmer's glue, and I paste this here. Confirming earlier, I doubt it, but anyway. Confirming earlier studies, the data reveal that that one mtDNA lineage in the Cochin speakers is the oldest known mtDNA lineage in living people. The work also tightens the date of origin of L0 to about 200,000 years ago, with a range of error of 165 to 240,000. That's a big range of error.
Yeah.
Previous studies had a range of error from 150 to 250. So it's a little narrower, right? The team reports today in Nature, but because today this lineage is found only in people in southern Africa, people carrying the L0 lineage lived in the southern Africa and formed the ancestral population for all living humans, says lead author Vanessa Hayes. That's what we said the other day. A geneticist at the Garvan Institute of Medical Research at the University of Sydney, Australia. Scroll, please. So that's what they were claiming. So where do we get to the part? Specifically, Hayes and her colleagues argue that the homeland was in what is now the Kalahari region of the northern Botswana. Okay, this is all review. Okay, so where do we get to the part where they're wrong? Come on down, buddy. But mtDNA alone in living people is a poor tool for tracking ancient population history in Africa. Well, seems like it was a giant waste of time.
Yeah, see, Hayes responded teams.
Yeah, so Sarah Tishkoff, who is an evolutionary geneticist from the University of Pennsylvania, said that mtDNA traces only one genetic lineage passed from mothers to their children over time. If the researchers had traced the evolution of Y chromosomes inherited from fathers, or of any nuclear genes inherited from both parents, they might have gotten many different answers, Scully adds.
I don't know. I think they did pretty good, but, I'm not a geneticist.
Yeah.
But I know that they said that they thought it started in one place and then went to the south and the north, northeast, and southwest. And they said they could tell that because the original population was still genetically shown in this middle area.
Yeah.
And these people down here had never changed, where these people up here started mutating. But also, too, like we pointed out in that other episode, there was at least a couple of other human-type species on the planet at that time, too, which modern humans inherited some amount of DNA from those other people, like I was pointing out with me and stuff, too. So it might be hard to track down any place where we all come from, but maybe this area for some people, this area for another, is a part of them.
I was really kind of shocked. I thought that DNA testing, like when you mail your DNA into the internet, was like super specific and was like this sort of DNA evidence. People get death sentences because of DNA evidence.
Yeah.
Now I'm finding out, though, you can take DNA tests from multiple different labs and get different results on your entire genetic makeup, what percentages of your genetic makeup. So how are we convicting people and killing them for crimes when I can't even tell me whether I'm Irish, Scottish, or how much necessarily with any real accuracy whatsoever?
How are we using a protein called CRISPR to do specific splicing?
So it's got to be
DNA?
more specific than, or are you just saying we're just sort of
I'm
risking
saying I'm saying I don't know any more than you do about that, other than just that I know that they're doing that. I don't know.
And don't you think that's worrisome, though?
No.
But
I don't tend to worry much about that sort of thing. I will say that I was watching, I haven't watched it all yet. It's like a 3 or 4 part, whatever, documentary about gene hacking on Netflix.
Okay.
Where people are using CRISPR on themselves.
That seems really dangerous, man.
That's what some people say and stuff. That's what I mean, like it seems like it's hard to say. I don't know.
Well, do you know this? I think the concern is that I edit the genes that give me better hairline or what the fuck ever. But it also makes me create this virus that is going to run rampant throughout society and kill everybody.
Maybe.
But see, that's my ignorance. That's what I would be terrified of.
Sure.
Beyond that, I think you're your own property, and as long as what you're doing, it doesn't have any external harm per se. Necessarily, you should be able to grow an arm out of your fucking forehead if you want. Like,
well, the advocates say that when it comes to gene hacking themselves, that the risk of it is no different than the risk of having cosmic rays and sun fall from the sky that cause mutation.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, the ratio of mutated genes that could occur is not that much different than smoking a cigarette or going outside in the sun.
Okay. So it's maybe it's not even an issue.
Well, I mean, you're still stacking it, and it's still a possibility. So there's a risk involved, I think. But I think what they're saying is to them, it's an acceptable risk to change who they are.
Yeah, but what if you have children and you're passing on some sort of weird mutated?
And you would.
Of course you would. Yeah. Then what happens too?
Well, that's the ethical situations that people get upset about. There's a lot. I was watching some of the, I think it was even about the people that were doing those mosquitoes and stuff.
Right.
And they were going into a couple of different towns. They were trying to do vineyard, what's the Martha's Garden?
Martha's Vineyard.
Vineyard, yeah.
Yeah, it's an island off of the coast of Massachusetts, yeah.
They were having like town meetings there trying to get the people to agree to let them do it there. And I don't think they ended up doing it.
Martha's Vineyard, you're not, no. You can't fucking do anything outside of Martha's Vineyard that isn't like quaint and New England.
I know, and I thought about that, and I wondered why they even picked that place. It seemed like it would be like the hard place to pick.
Well, Massachusetts, I think, has the highest per capita amount of universities in the U.S. I mean, when you live up there, you sort of take it for granted, but there's fucking colleges everywhere. MIT, Boston College, there's just tons of schools, Worcester Polytech, everywhere. So that because of that, a lot of research and a lot of interest, Boston Dynamics, robots, Raytheon's there. There's a lot of that kind of stuff there as well. MIT.
I think they still just said no.
Well, yeah, I know Martha's Vineyard said no. They tried to do a windmill farm up there. Actually, I think this recently got approved, but they were trying to put in a giant windmill farm off the coast of Massachusetts. I don't think it was out by Martha's Vineyard.
Is that the people that were saying that would be unsightly or something?
Yes, it's NIMBY.
Yeah, I think I was bitching about that.
They're the same people that are all for... We got to stop burning gasoline, all this kind of stuff. And then they went, hey, you know what would be great? We could power a lot of people with really green energy if we just build this wind farm out here off the coast. And they're like, you mean, but we have to look at that? Yeah. Oh, no. That's not, we can't be having that now.
Not in front of these eyes.
Ultimately, I think they did lose their case. So I think they are building it now. I think. I could be wrong about that. But that's been going on for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Long time. But anyway, I think it's down by Provincetown for some reason. I don't think it's actually out on Martha's Vineyard, but I digress. So, guys, got anything else we need to cover tonight? We'd had a pretty good show, hour and a half, man. We went a long time tonight for us.
Everybody chill out, man.
Love each other, right? Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. It's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Check us out on YouTube. You can watch us do this thing that we do now in the studio. It's really cool. But you can look us up on YouTube. Same thing. No Shitcast, all one word. KNOWSHITCAST. Just do a search and you'll find us. Hit those like and subscribe buttons. We really appreciate the shares and all the comments, folks. And we'll catch you all next time. Thanks, everybody. Bicycles.